This morning in North Carolina, wheels are spinning. Determination is winning. A passion is now a thriving business, and it shows no signs of slowing down. How? The power of a conversation, like the one Clint Spiegel had with First Horizon Bank about starting a bike wheel manufacturing facility in Asheville. Now it's not just talk, it's rubber meets road. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Clint. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
It's that time of year where we need to look at our marketing, look at our business practices, and make sure everything is running as effectively as possible as we head into the new year. We're going to talk with Jeff Maggs and Moira about 3 dreaded letters, RFP, how you can handle those, and how you can optimize your marketing practices heading into the new year. All that and more today on the Marketing Madmen podcast.
They say marketing is a madman's game. So now we turned it over to the Marketing Madman with Nick Constantino and Trip Job.
Hello and welcome to the Marketing Madmen. Nick Constantino here, and Trip is out, so we brought in our good friend Moira from Modo to guest host. Moira, how you doing, girl?
Great.
That is awesome. We also have a guest, Mr. Jeff Maggs, managing partner of Brunner. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Well, we started this conversation before we even got here about how the world is going to hell in a handbasket. So with that premise, and it is, let's be clear, lots of things are happening. I think in our space, between the agency and the media and the marketing space, there's a lot of turmoil. So what we're going to do is talk to specifically business owners and marketing executives about what to do a checkup to make sure you are prepared for what's happening now and what's going to happen. We'll segue that to a little bit of a conversation of how to use an agency, how to go about finding one. Then we'll end that with just an all-out blitz on everything that's wrong to show that we are the ones that are right.
Exactly.
Good with everybody?
Sounds good to me.
It's great. Now, I am sitting here looking at a glass half full, so I feel the need to say
the
that
optimism is
there's
amazing.
Some hell in a handbasketry, but there are also wonderful things, right? Because great things don't happen unless something is crazy.
I completely agree. And for all those business people out there, the best opportunities in the world exist from pure chaos, and that is happening.
Yes.
So there is opportunity everywhere.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So
chaos can create greatness.
that it could.
That's what my dad taught me. It can create greatness.
I tend to be, I work my best in pure chaos.
Yep.
Like when everything's hitting the fan, because
Yep.
my quick decision making and my lack of a give a crap of what other people think actually helps to thrive in that situation. So I enjoy it personally. So if I sound upbeat, I am. I agree with you. Like as bad as it is, 1, we've put ourselves in this position. How are we shocked? 2, history is just repeating itself. So how are we shocked?
Yep.
And 3, what you've done to this point will dictate what you do moving forward.
Yeah.
If you've handled adversity, if you've overcome these things, you will get out of this unscathed. If you have relied on other people, your college degree that mommy and daddy got you, all those things, you're screwed.
Yeah.
It is that is happening right now.
You know what I was saying, Nick? You may not get out unscathed, but I believe being scathed
Is a good thing.
Actually,
As
can
long
be a
as you
good
learn
thing
from it
and
and
you
don't make the
grow
same
from
mistake
it.
twice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Builds
Absolutely.
character.
Yes. So I love it. Well, that was a great way to start.
Yeah.
How are we going to top this? All right. So let's talk a little bit about a marketing checkup. So, one of the things, behavior has changed. I think there's a COVID hangover still that people are still trying to navigate. But let's assume your company, let's call it you're a $15, $20 million company. Doesn't matter what kind. You're public facing, B2C with a little B2B. Let's talk about some things that you can do right now to start checking and making sure your marketing is in the right place. So I'll give you an example. So for me, one of the things is that you have to make sure that you have the proper measurement and data collection channels. I'm not even talking about processing. Do you have Google Analytics set up? Are you looking at first-party data? Are you making decisions based on data? But you can't make those decisions unless you have good data. So talk a little bit about that, both your experiences. Moira, we'll start with you, about how you can check up to make sure you're collecting the right information.
So I would first start with the world has changed so dramatically in the last 3 years that it is not simply a checkup of your marketing vehicles, your marketing messages. I think you have to back up to, is our business in the right place, and is our business proposition relevant?
Right.
And then marketing stems from that. So
Completely agree.
You know,
And those business propositions could have changed
Right.
quicker than they ever have before.
Right, because I think there's a lot of people that can be refining these things that, by the way, are wholly irrelevant based on today's world. And so I think there's a lot of that foundational work in a marketing checkup that starts with, is the business positioned with the right segments and for growth in the world we find ourselves in now?
Yeah, I love that. And that's I would say that's probably the difference in business today is the CFO is more involved in those decisions and the CMO, which has drastically changed the nature of business procurement. So I completely agree with that, and I love the point. And let's assume that has happened, and those are clear for the sake of this. So, Jeff, we'll have you go, then Moira, we'll go back to you. Now that once you know that, let's talk about the marketing. Good.
Yeah, what I would say, you talk about data. The key point of data is not the numbers. It's what's behind the numbers. What are the numbers telling us? We have lots of clients and lots of agencies that talk about data. It is the in thing to be talking about today. The reality is, even in that science, there's an art to understanding the data. Do we know who we're talking to? Do we know what data we need to collect? Are we being truthful about responding to the data? The reality is, like a checkup, a doctor can only tell you so much. The data can only tell you so much. As the patient, you need to take the data and do something with it, or else it's a wasted office visit, right? That you paid a lot of money
If the doctor
for,
doesn't
right?
know that you've drank and smoked your whole life and you have a stroke, then what are they going to think? Like, you have to, you need to give the right, and I always talk about this. We always talk about the world, AI, always think about outputs. Outputs are worthless without the proper inputs. Are we giving the right inputs to all of this?
Yeah, and I think the other thing, you talked about it a minute ago, defining what success looks like. We talk a lot about doing a marketing checkup, doing a zero-based look at, are things working, are they not working? The reality is, we have people that don't even know what the hell success is supposed to be. If we're talking about different success metrics, then what are we measuring? What analytics are we looking at? The tools we use are irrelevant if we don't know what the end game is. So I would say starting a checkup with the data, but more to the point, starting with, what does success look like? What does the leadership in my organization expect of the marketing? And frankly, are they on board with where we're going? Because the reality is, what we don't want is to have a checkup that's just telling us what we want to hear versus what we really need to hear.
I was going to say, when you talk about a marketing checkup, I think it is about more than the marketing metrics. It is taking marketing out of its silo. It's how all the things, you talk about being relevant and driving business performance. I was just talking to somebody this morning who's in a marketing function and started asking questions about revenue and where revenue comes from. They're like, "You're in marketing. Why are you asking about revenue?" What are you talking about? Right. That's
why people look at marketing as an expense and not a revenue builder, because you're looking from that funnel. So I will say, I'm going to combine the two things you guys said and say, one, we are in a point now where I feel like everybody's on edge and everybody feels that they have to cover their ass. Okay? In that position, that's why people rely on data, because the excuses can exist. I am not making the decision to do this. The data says to do this. Now, I have also been in the situation, and I'm not going to even name the companies, but some are Fortune 50 companies, 100 companies, that when you actually challenge and start asking questions about, they don't know what the hell they're talking about, how they procure it, how they use it, what they're looking for. Like, if you know that we have a high net worth consumer, why are you selling a $200 bonus on a checking account? Okay, when you have one customer can be worth $100 million, why are you selling these promotional tools to people? And the answer is, by the time the marketing makes its way down, by the time you go from CMO to the different agencies to this, they can only figure out one initiative and they have to put everything behind that initiative. That is crazy. You are making marketing channels bend to you as opposed to just changing a little bit to the marketing channel. And I think that is an issue that we deal with. I think all across the board. I also think that the problem with data is, the more data you have, one, the easier it is to manipulate, because all you're doing is pulling whatever people want to see. And two, you're not using the data to tell a story. I love the old LinkedIn adage, Legos all over the floor. That's data. Okay? Sorted data is Legos by color, which is great. But can you turn that data into a house of the Legos to make, this is the story behind the data? And it's not, I'm not saying it's easy at all, but I'm saying that, one, know your customer. If your customer, as an agency, as a marketing person, is someone who is sophisticated on this, you better be sophisticated, because if they catch you in the wrong thing, you're screwed. If it is someone who is a little bit simpler but wants to see it, you need to make that house for them. You need to tell that story with them.
But I think this is a challenge overall in business right now, and I know we're going to be talking about agencies, but I think marketing.
We can talk about whatever you want.
Well, I'm just saying, I think marketing as a profession has struggled to get the seat at the table, and finally has made the turn. Like the CMOs that we work with, CMOs are becoming CEOs because they're understood to be operators and have financial savvy and business understanding. But likewise, when those very strategic CMOs start to look for agencies, it becomes a thin pool of agencies who can talk to you like that, who can talk to you about revenue and sales and growth and business objectives. And so I think that's
they're also shy to share it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the things I deal with all the time is I've always asked them many times, okay, they're like, well, we need more effectiveness. We need this to be effective. Okay, well, what metric are you gauging said effectiveness upon? Is it simply views? Because I can buy views. Anyone who is every review you read is fake.
Right.
Every view is paid for. The internet is the Wild West. And I can show you with very easy metrics how that's the case. So do you want an engaged view? Do you want to click? Do you want brand lift? Are you checking Google Trends to see? Do you know if your Google Analytics organic search is increasing? But when you ask those questions, it feels like you're prying. How hard is it even connect to Google Analytics to run an attribution campaign? Look, I'm trying to maximize your marketing dollars. I'm not trying to make this about me. It's about you. Yeah. So, Jeff, what do you think?
Well, I think a couple things. You talked about agencies being at the table. At one point, I did a piece on the notion that agencies have allowed themselves. I don't know if you guys remember when you were a kid, there was the kiddie table at the holiday, and then there was the parents' table, and you kind of, as you became a teenager, it was a rite of passage to get to the big table. Well, I think the same thing happens in our world. And when you have this checkup, clients being willing to have conversations with agencies, hard conversations, database conversations, real in-the-mirror looking conversations, didn't happen for a long time because we allowed ourselves to get relegated to the kiddie table.
Yeah.
You know,
Most media companies, you're talking the same language as media companies. Radio companies screw themselves so bad that they let the agencies be the conduit. They were not at the table.
No, we're on the outside looking in. You know, we talk about schedules. We talk about making stuff. We talk about once key business decisions are made that we're on the trail end making the communications to support them. To be at the head table where real conversations, real checkups are having. Where do business dynamics, where do product development dynamics, where does acquisition and merger business happen? Agencies were left out of that discussion for a long time. Those marketing checkups that we're talking about with clients, third-party consultants were doing it. They were spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars with the McKinseys of the world because agencies lost the seat at that table. And that's what we're working to continue to try to get back to.
Yeah, some of the most meaningful relationships are exactly the thing that you're talking about where maybe there was a McKinsey or a management consultant who had a deck and the C-suite, but they don't know how to bring this thing to life. And when you get into that room and it's like, but why did you invest in this 300 slide deck and what does it mean and where's the revenue supposed to come from and how do we activate that and do your people understand it? Well, let's get them fired up first. And so there's internal campaigns, right? And then now everybody's fired up and, we need spiffs because sales needs to go out and take this message to the world and then, warming up the audiences. There's just too many people, especially with the pandemic, right? Like transformation, right? Business transformation, digital, all the transformations. Everybody has a consulting deck. Nobody knows how to generate revenue with it. Right now.
Yeah, I'll go one further. By the time you spend all those effort and that resource in making that deck, it could be obsolete by the time. Because again, at this point, we're not talking about fundamental principles of business. Those have gone out the window. We're talking about we need change quickly, and you're screwed if that's the case. So this is a fascinating conversation. I can't wait to continue it. You've been listening to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3.
A lifetime of hard work, children laughing in the kitchen, family photos on a restaurant wall, a legacy that lives on. It all comes from the power of a conversation, like the one Tommy Hall had with First Horizon Bank about taking over his father's Charleston-based restaurant business. Now the table is set for a whole new generation. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Tommy. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Now back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3 FM.
Welcome back to the Marketing Madmen. Today we have guest host Moira with us. Moira's kicking booty as usual. And we have Jeff Maggs, the managing partner of Brunner here. And, we talked about we want to see it at the table. We talk about how it's changed and we need all this data to really make smart decisions. My question is, how do you build the rapport to get it? Okay. The answer is long-term relationships, but we're moving at such a fast pace nowadays. You don't have that. So what tips do you have? What advice would you give to be able to quickly build rapport or set your agency or company up to be a trusted source that people are going to share that information with you? Moira, let's start with you.
So I don't want to give away all our secrets for how we build that rapport. I know that Jeff and I know how to do that. Yeah. No, but I think a part of that is, you talked in the beginning about being a very chaos-oriented person and, liking the charge and connecting dots. And I think that agencies are very much that way, and consultants are very much that way because we have the privilege of working on many, many businesses, right? And so I think
Objectivity.
Yes, and it's both objectivity as well as exposure. It's exposure to different models and different metrics and different
and other failures,
pressure,
right? Other failures, because you have the chance to learn from other people's failures of what to do and what not to do. For sure,
different pressure points and all of that. And I think the fastest way to build rapport is to come in and start connecting dots. Right? You ask a few questions, and then you start drawing parallels between things that you've done, or things that you've seen work, or things that haven't worked. Right? Colossal failures that have resulted, and you do that through a business lens, not an advertising lens,
right.
and that is what builds rapport.
And I have to imagine all that experience with all those clients, you probably can quickly pick out who the important people in the hierarchy of the company are and who's really making those decisions. Because it's not always the VP of marketing. It's not always the CMO. There are plenty of CFOs. There are plenty of sales directors who ultimately were brought in line. If you can get in with one of those sales directors and make a plan to how we're going to make your day easier, guess whose renewal's pretty much easier to do. So, Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I would just add, I agree with everything that Moira just said. I would add that for me and for us, the number one way to build rapport is to demonstrate value and to demonstrate it as quickly as possible. And that starts with doing homework. That starts with asking questions well before that first meeting ever happens.
Yes.
Know as much as you can. The other thing is, I have a major problem even calling people clients. Agencies talk about clients like they're these inanimate objects or these beings or these things out there. You know what clients really are? They're individuals. They're people who are counting on us to help them stay in the job longer than 18 months. They're counting on us to help them grow with their CEOs and in their careers. And the way you build rapport is by demonstrating understanding of their business, understanding of their individual goals. We always start with Mr. or Ms. CEO, CMO, VP of marketing. What are you focused on?
Well, and we talk about empathy a lot.
Emotional
because you're talking about people are freaking out right now. Like I can't tell you how many resumes I've gotten this week from people that the next wave is coming through, and when people are freaking out, that's something that we tell our more junior people that are coming up. We are this teeny speck in their life, right? We're associated to with this one initiative. And they've got, their whole whatever division just got reorged, and they're worrying about their job. So they don't care about our brief, or they don't care about the concept. They are worried about their job today.
And if you're lucky enough to be more than that for the person, you have a duty and an obligation to them now more than you ever have. Absolutely. This is not the time. This is the time where you are a resource to rely on anything. It doesn't matter if it's marketing. And I think that's another thing. When the bigger the company gets, the bigger the agency, when you start dealing with these mind shares, these mega, where is the accountability? You're paying new kids turning over $50,000 a year to be these people that are accountable. They don't think about the person. They think about maybe what if my job is next?
Absolutely.
Where is that accountability? And I think the pace of turnover has also negatively affected that. Companies, corporations have turned people over faster in the 10 years than they ever have before.
Well, and corporations are turning people over faster than agencies used to right now, in my experience, which is crazy, right? Because agencies have always been held up as the place with the revolving door on par with retail. And now, honestly, we're retaining people longer than a lot of our current clients are.
I think there's always a point where there's an ebb and flow where the corporations become consistent, right? When things are booming, money's cheap, they're going up. And then all of a sudden you get to these economic turmoil places, and then the small businesses become the ones that people are going to, and they want that that safety and that. So I think that it always happens. But I agree with you. I mean, my brother works for a very big social media agency in New York. His largest account was he was doing Facebook for Facebook. He was doing social media for the entire Meta thing. Okay, they told everyone they wouldn't get raises for 2 years. They are going out and subcontracting all of the work from Pakistan for all these people to do all these jobs, telling the clients that they're not, and then they're forcing the people to come back to the office, not because they need them in the office, because they can bill back the clients for the time of them being spent in the office. That may help your numbers artificially, but in the long term, what are you doing? That is not a trust-bearing relationship.
Well, and it's not value to what you were saying.
Yeah, and I think that clients, people, are very smart. They know when you have their best interests at heart. I mean, at the end of the day, we always win, always, when our clients win, always. And it's funny, you talked about building rapport. In the day, building rapport happened on the golf course or at a dinner or at a game or at a spa.
Yeah.
That's not what clients care about right now. It's
No.
what happens that can help them drive business forward. And you know, the cliche that first impressions are lasting impressions, that first interaction, we put so much focus in our organization about preparing for that first interaction because you may not get a second chance
Yep.
to build rapport. Rapport has to happen. It's like speed dating on steroids, right? And I think that when you have people that understand that and build over time, that's good. But it has to start like that.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is we pride ourselves, and I think the agencies that really are successful, and to me, size doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Bigger isn't better, all that stuff,
Yeah.
either on the client side or the agency side. It starts with having people that really know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, but those people have to have
Right.
tenure then. Those
Yeah.
people have to be there for a while.
That's what
Those people have to
clients
have a
want.
grand
Absolutely.
vision of what you're working towards.
Yeah.
And all of those, this is where I'm going to COVID screwed a lot of that up. Because the vision of what companies were going to be changed, right?
Right.
All of a sudden now these supply demand curves went upside down. And now you're being, you can't be proactive. You have to be reactive. And the enemy of business and growth and expansion is having to be reactive.
Absolutely.
So that's where I will be the defensive towards it. And look, I think this is a great point to bring up when you talk about when you have those clients and you have that presentation, you put all this effort into. Let's talk about how broken the RFP cycle is. Because one of the things, you can be the most prepared person on earth. You need to be given a chance to succeed. And in my experience, both with us and with agencies that are dealing with this, they're not even giving a chance to succeed. They already either made the decisions in advance. I remember I did a cattle call. We did a cattle call. I'm not going to mention the company. Commodity. So it's a monopoly. So they don't, their marketing is just a, yay, feel good about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we go in, we've had really bad experience with them. We went in, my goal was to present stand-up comedy routine. Get everyone's attention. There's 60 people in the room. Let's do this. We walked out of that meeting with 3 new people saying, oh my God, I want to talk. They all came out. We branded this. Still to this day, nothing's come of it.
Right.
Because the RFP was a facade. You could have everybody in the world jumping at it. You know what they do the next day? They go back to the same funnel of how they're doing things and they forget about it. So what do you think we can do to improve the RFP process? And what are each of you guys doing to improve your efficiency in responding to said RFPs?
Yeah. Okay. So, RFPs are painful. I understand what they're intended to do, which is to give the company, and I'm not going to use the word client. I like your cue. This is businesses, and we're all on a team working together. I think that everybody wants an equal playing field to make a decision, and it's very hard for people when agencies come in and they have different approaches and skill sets and functions, and their proposals look different. So I get why you do it. But the thing that is missing for me right now is the empathy for the agency, right? Like agencies are under pressure too. Agencies are under-resourced. And we've had a lot of RFPs lately where they are asking for 10 times what they used to ask for in an RFP in half or a third the time. And then they're saying on the other side of it, and we want you to be able to deliver in crazy window. And by the way, extend us 90-day payment terms, which doesn't take into account the small business pressures that most agencies are under 100 people. Let's call it a small business. And
we want all your company resources, your best ideas, the best profit margin. You have 4 days to figure it. 4 hours to figure it out.
Yes, and so there's a lot of that is not reasonable. And so for us, what we're trying to do is reset the expectations and say, is there room to flex? Let us show you why we may have, and can we do this in our own way? And some people say, sure, I just didn't know. I pulled something down off the web, and I thought this was how you ran an RFP. And those people that are willing to open up or, alter their process are probably going to be that way when you work with them, right? So that's an indicator.
Yeah, I would argue that the agencies, big and small, holding company based, publicly traded, and independents, are a big part of the reason why the RFP process is broken.
Yep.
Because
again, the media companies, the radio, we get RFP'd also. It's the same thing. We've allowed it to happen for so long, and you have bottom feeders that'll just go out and give what they want.
When you take crap from a bully, so I think that's part of it.
I don't want to disagree with you, but how many times could you make that same stupid mistake? What? How many times can these companies expect something from somebody who's taking, like I joke about this all the time. We have positioned a product as if this is, I'm not going to say it's the lobster, but I'm going to say, you know what, this is a huge piece of good shrimp that you're going to get at a restaurant. Right. Like there are either people who eat 99-cent shrimp cocktail or there are people that don't. Too many people are offering garbage that these companies should be smarter than knowing to take it just because it's cheaper or because it's...
I hear you, but it's like baseball. If one team's willing to pay somebody more than they're worth, then it becomes a bidding war.
Yeah, I'm a Mets fan. We had to just give two guys away that we pay too much money to, and we had to eat half the salaries.
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
it.
So I think, though, I'm on a committee for our industry association, the 4As, National New Business Committee, and we talk about RFPs all the time. We've talked about this search consultant role, which is basically a third-party broker, for those who don't know. And we've put rules in place with the people who represent advertisers, and we are working hard to bring more stability, more formality, more fairness to the process. It starts, though, with agencies saying no mas, no mas. I'm not giving you free work that I should be getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for. I'm not doing this in 4 days. I'm not giving you private financial information for my company. And we are interviewing and I don't want to sense, we're not an arrogant organization. We're a hungry entrepreneurial organization, much like Moira's organization is, and many, many others out there. But we're not going to be bullied into participating in RFPs that have no win for us.
It's not business shouldn't be done by one side being in favor. And you know the funniest thing that I found in that? So it's a similar process, but we get RFP'd for a national avail, all these things all the time. And the numbers are ridiculous. And we used to spend so much time crafting a response back to make us seem like we're sympathetic, but we can't, and we just stopped. Now the directive is, no, thank you. And if they write back and say, that's all you have to say, we write back and say, the words I actually wanted to say, I shouldn't put in writing, no thank you. And it pisses them off more to hear no thank you than the BS we've been giving.
Nick, it's so funny. We have actually had, in recent times, 4 or 5 examples where we pushed back respectfully, always respectfully.
But I think no thank you
we're
is
not like
but,
Nick.
Yeah, but
no
direct.
thank you is as respectful as it comes.
But
I'm a
what we'll
Yankee.
do is
No thank you means move on.
We'll ask questions and challenging questions because we're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing us, right? And we basically will get to a point in 4 or 5 situations where we said no after this process. 2 of those we came back and ended up winning the new business. So I think you earn respect when you don't just do blindly. And I think that that's what's broken. The other part of the RFP process that's broken is, and Moira has it, we call it ghosting. You know, remember when you were in high school and the girlfriend stopped calling you when you...
I never had that problem.
Of course.
You're a good-looking guy. I can see that, you know, with a charming personality. I have neither. No. A face for radio, as they say. But I think that now people are doing RFPs. We're going through this entire process. We think it's the right thing to do, and then they disappear. And we've spent, in some cases, tens of thousands if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in
research time
to go after this. It's a major problem.
You know, one thing that you brought up too that I don't think that, you know, again, for the listeners to just make it clear, there are different kinds of RFP processes, and some of them that are simpler and intended to figure out, can we work with these people and do we like how they think and how they engage with us? Like, that's great. Sometimes it's like, what are some high level thinking you would apply to the challenge? And here's the challenge as we've written it. That's great. But some of these RFPs not only demand the work and multiple concepts, but you brought up the point of we want to have your last 3 years tax returns. We want an org chart. We want bios on the executives. Salaries, which is, you know, well, we always, of course, say no to that. But we're like, you know, we're a private organization for a reason. And are you trying to build an agency? Like, why do you need the org chart?
But my bet is because they got burned. My bet is because they were set up by by someone else that gave false. But then again, they probably took the cheapest option and they got screwed for making a bad decision. So my rebut would be, look, if you're asking for this information because you want to know about us, sign an NDA. Here's what I will give you. You can see all this stuff. If you're doing this because you got burned previously, then shame on you. Shame on you for putting yourself in this position to fail. Because you know what? We have clients. We still run Duns and Bradstreet. We still run credit reporting. Do you know how hard? We don't give credit out to people. We just don't. Do you know how pissed off they are? And then we come back and say the same thing. Okay? If you foreclose on a house, no bank is going going to give you a loan.
Right.
There's public information. Give us more. Give us a contact
Right.
at a media company to go to, and we will go get it.
Right.
But I think smart companies and ones with real supply-demand curves, meaning they have enough demand that the extra demand coming in is a bonus or would replace it at a higher dollar amount, are in the advantage that they, and if you're dealing with a company, you should reward them for
Absolutely.
that. You should reward them for pushing back because that means they don't need your business, which means they built a successful career without it.
And,
You
go
go.
ahead.
I was just going to say about the creative too. Like one of the points that we always made about we can't give you creative before we've even talked to you or talked to the people, because then it's not informed. It's not grounded in the business. It's just making crap up, and that is not going to help anybody. It's not going to.
And we talked a lot about the downside and the negativity surrounding RFPs, but there are, not every RFP is created equal, and we make sure we tell prospects, hopefully clients at some point, we thank them when the RFP and the process is done well, done correctly.
Yes.
And by the way, that doesn't mean agencies shouldn't be challenged.
No.
That doesn't mean we shouldn't be expected to think and to demonstrate
100%.
who the team's going to be and what it's going to cost without all the background financial information. And there are some RFPs that are really well done.
Yes.
And it shows a lot about the client and or their third party that's helping them through the process. That instantaneously says something. And you know what? It starts a relationship, starts that rapport literally before the relationship starts, because these are real people who have empathy for the agency, who know that they're buying a long-term relationship, not a transactional one. And so there are people out there doing great
But I think
work,
the phrase
and then others
is
not so much.
Context. Okay?
Yeah,
So
right.
you could have an RFP, one with context, one without. Here's the context. Hey, this is probably going to somebody else. I'm giving you a shot.
Yeah.
That makes you change because now you got to go take some risks because you know it's likely to go to somebody else.
Yeah.
Or, hey, really, we're pricing this out. This is a formality. Well, then you don't have to put as much time into it.
It's the
Absolutely.
fast,
appreciate
cheap, and
that.
accurate.
I
Which
do.
thing, right? Is
Which
this
one?
a quality creative play? Is this about how fast? Is it about
Absolutely.
how
And it's
how much?
in their interests to give that context,
Absolutely.
and that is what is lacking. And that's, again, I say RFP as the process.
Yeah.
The RFP, what's on paper, who gives a It's not about that. It is about when you send this, are you giving people a fair chance to put their best foot forward, and do you know how to rate their best foot forward? And if so, that usually leads to success. Almost every time. And that's where I'm curious where it's broken. Now,
Well, I want to say one thing there
please. Yeah, go.
because you said before too
Just a
about
passionate discussion.
It is. Well, you talked about the first impressions, and I think the RFP is often a beautiful window into what's happening in a client when it is
Totally agree.
articulated, and then you get on a call with them, and they're clearly aligned around some. And it's crazy, and not everything is aligned all the time. Most people don't exactly know what they need, but the better they are at trying to communicate what the challenge is, what the rub is.
Job to communicate. Marketing's job is to communicate challenges. How is it so broken that the department whose only job is to communicate can't communicate the challenges? When you have met with somebody, a business owner, a CMO, and they have clearly articulated their challenges to you, your success rate is probably close to 80%.
Yes.
When they have articulated their real challenge. Now, this is where the being at a game comes in, because half the times that's 3 or 4 cocktails in. I hate to be that guy. They're a lot more loose with what they say, and because they want to be helped. The rapport is built. That's where those sports comes in. But if you're not putting people in a position to succeed, all you're doing is kicking your own success further down the road to when you get it, and that's the frustration.
Well, and the reality is, the more they invest, whomever it is that's developing the RFP or whatever the process is for selecting a new partner or partners, that is hard work for those folks. I know how much they put into those RFPs, especially the ones that are done, how many approval process, how much homework they have to do. So to do it half-assed, or to pick an agency that's not really the best partner because you didn't communicate properly, you didn't give them the right amount of time, you're just going to be doing it over again.
Right. Well, and the cost of change is hard. I
Absolutely.
mean, we've got a couple of, thankfully, knock on wood and plastic and everything, we're onboarding several new clients right now. And, there's the cost to do an RFP, but then there's we're really making this decision and we got to change horses, and there's time and effort, and got to make sure it's the right horse.
Yeah, and so let me say this from the client side now, because we deal with a lot of agencies, you can imagine, and there's lots of different kinds, and 50, 60 agencies, probably been 100 in my career. A lot of agencies don't make it easy either, right? And here's how the relationship should go. Hi, agency. I understand you are conduit to said money. My job is to make you look good, okay? From the beginning, I have a relationship with the client. I am not going to let that relationship go. Let's dictate how to do this together.
Yep.
Those conversations never happen.
Yeah.
Never, ever happen. It's always super defensive mode, and it's this person's trying to do this. That's not how business is done.
Right.
We are both working in that client's interest. How do we do it together? Those conversations are not had. They're not had. And I can try my best to force it. And usually when I do, we keep them on forever.
Yeah.
But usually either that person's not empowered to make that decision,
Right.
that person doesn't have enough knowledge, or that person sees me as a threat.
Right.
Okay? Those are bad things for a business climate.
Yep.
That's what makes it more challenging. And I think the industry will autocorrect, fix itself. I think a lot of the bad actors will disappear. I think a lot of the bad media companies will disappear. And I think we'll find some healthy medium. It's going to take a lot of work to get there. And it's going to take a lot of people like us having these conversations.
Absolutely.
Where, yes, we compete with each other, right? That doesn't mean we're going against each other. It means that ultimately we're saying thought leadership. Look, this is how this process could be better for everybody.
Absolutely.
I don't see it out there happening that way.
Well, agencies should be more than prepared for that type of mindset, because the reality is, over the course of my career, the nature of client-agency relationships has changed dramatically, and it's rare that one agency controls the entire client relationship.
But that makes it so much harder because those agencies don't talk to each other.
Yeah,
they're all trying to outbid each other, which means they're not working in a client's best interest.
Yeah, but that's where a strong client. I once worked on a major brand, GE Lighting, and we were sitting in an agency office in New York. We were the national promotional agency. There was a PR agency. There was the advertising agency and a branding consultant. It was a big launch. The CMO, I won't name names, he's a very well-known CMO at a very high level, came into the room with these 4 agencies and said, welcome, you've all been brought here for a reason. We all want you to work together. We all want you to be famous. We all want you to make money. However, the first time I feel that our brand is not at the epicenter of every decision you make, you're gone. And he said, remember,
Dun,
the brand
dun,
is
dun.
exactly. But not every client. Some clients, you talked earlier. We talked even as we were getting to know each other.
Hey, Jeff, you know what? We're going to finish this break. Oh, you're quite all right. This is a great conversation. You're listening to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3, and we'll be right back.
This morning in the Atlanta airport, no one's missing a meal on Mac Wilburn's watch. With 11 restaurants to serve passengers, he's got dining for every destination. And it all started when Mac talked with First Horizon Bank about opening a franchise in the airport. Now it's open for business and cleared for takeoff. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Mac. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Now back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3 FM.
Welcome back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. We got Moira here, Modo. We got Jeff Maggs here, Brunner, and I rudely cut Jeff off in the middle of the segment because this is a radio show indeed. So, Jeff, close us out, buddy.
Now, for everybody who knows me, they know I talk way too much. So
everybody in this room, bro.
Yeah, everybody in this room, yeah.
I don't know what you're talking
just
about.
Finishing up the thought on the experience with multiple agencies working on one brand. And yes, there are clients and there are organizations who divide, but somebody has to take the high ground and understand that we all win when the brand wins.
Okay, so I got a high ground story that's related to that. So we have a client that we started working with in 2021 and was going through a lot of digital transformation, had one agency already engaged at a brand level, had another agency that had worked with them for 15 or 20 years in the product area. Was also starting to do recruitment and needed to do employer branding. And so they said, we don't want everybody to step all over each other, but there is so much going on in this company right now. They were down 1,500 spots. And so we were invited to an offsite. We went to New Jersey, and there were
Great place for an offsite.
Yes,
there it is. Tropical.
Newer.
Was it was in a casino where I might have won a little money. But anyway, there were 4 agencies and there were 100 people in this. It was all of their marketers were brought in, and we were all there, and we all got to present our piece, and we all talked about what the goals were, and it was a complete company alignment session around where we're going.
What Jeff said, there was one person who moderated and made sure that happened.
The CMO. Yeah, the CMO. The CMO who said, we all have to work together. I think one of my points was, in some of these examples or some of your examples, there's a threat, right?
Yeah.
And this was not about threat. This was about we only all win if we're all playing together. So let's create a ground rule, ground game where we are all on the field together and come in here and figure out how each other plays and how to
competition is
communicate.
fine.
Yeah,
Competition leads to innovation. I'm fine with competition, but I see what you're saying.
And we can have a lot of fun too. I've worked with multiple agencies who have that were one-time competitors but became collaborators, and we've had a blast. And we hang out together.
Co-opetition.
Exactly. That's just the way the world works.
I love it. And look, we've been a little doom and gloomish about this all, and luckily we've been through this before. Everybody in this room has been through this before. And here's the good news, and let's lighten this up a little bit. The good news is, out of these scenarios, a lot of really good things come about. Out of any time where all of a sudden private equity dries up, people have to start their own companies, their own businesses, and take these risks. So there's not as much venture capital, right? All of a sudden, marketing people feel, okay, I've been let down by this. I need to do this. This is where the greatest innovation comes from. So let's talk a little bit about what we see over the next couple of years. How does this pan out? What opportunities do you see for your companies and in Mediascape and everything? Because I think that's a great way to end it, because this is not doom and gloom. This is, hey, this is the system. It always reverts back to a mean at some point. Can you be out ahead of the mean and be the one that's leading the change, not following?
Yeah, well, I want to say one thing here, and again, leave it to me to talk about marketing and to make sure we're not talking about marketing. But I want to go back to something at the very beginning. We talked about everything about our success is relationships. It's built on relationships. And when you go through a bad market or a bad economy or a global pandemic or everybody getting laid off or some economy, some sector tanking, people get vulnerable, people get scared, and that is when real relationships emerge, right? That's when you end up with a friendship and an alliance, and it is more than transactions happening.
Yeah.
When everything.
If you're good at what you do.
Right.
It also weans out the people who are bad at or malintentioned from that system.
Exactly. But to me, what, and chaos creates great creative because you're dealing with the real issues, not the sugar-coated issues. And so, for us, Modo has been in business 16 years, and we started just before the 2008 crash. We have always done much better coming out of bad situations, because I do think it kind of shakes off the surface level things. It makes clients get really honest and candid. It makes you get really honest and candid back about how to do your best work.
Yep. Yeah, I think innovation comes and transformation comes from three mindset and attitudinal ways of being, and that's courage, foresight, and a lack of allowing yourself to be intimidated by what's next.
Yeah.
Right? One of the best parts of our business is sort of like being a hitter, unless you're the Astros and when they were doing the can thing. You don't know what's coming, right? That's part of the challenge.
Especially in the playoffs. The whole thing changes. Those guys are pitching different. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you prepare, you do your homework, you train, you put great people around you. But part of the excitement about our world, and one of the reasons I got into it in the first place, is the unknown is so exciting. Change is not something to be feared, but it's something to be embraced and, in fact, thrive in that environment.
Exhilarated by it.
You're exhilarated.
For some people.
For some people.
This is why this is a weeding out period.
Yeah.
People with bad relational skills are just doing this for the money. They disappear.
There's a lot of
people that don't handle chaos disappear. That's
Yeah.
why such good things come out of these times.
And ambiguity, right? One of our core tenets of success at Brunner for new employees is, are you willing and able to handle ambiguity?
Yeah.
It is not black and white.
Totally.
There's a lot of gray in what we do.
Yeah.
And to be able to take that gray and transform it into something is the skill. It's what we should be accountable for. And I think that the other thing is, in our business, what's really cool is I get to work with people every single day who couldn't be more different from me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever that means. And, diversity to me is not gender, ethnic, racial, religious.
Yeah.
It's a way of being.
Right.
It's where you come from.
Yeah.
I work with anthropologists. I work with psychologists. I work with writers. I work with accountants.
Type A, type B,
Type
type C,
A,
type Z,
B.
type X.
And managing through and creating that rapport inside your organization with partner agencies and with client partners and radio and media partners is the skill. And, there's a reason marriages don't last, whether they're familial or business. It's because somebody in that situation isn't prepared for that ambiguity and giving it everything you got.
I love what you said. I think that for me, one of the things I tell salespeople, what makes a successful salesperson, and I think it is a diversity of experience.
Absolutely.
Because your goal is to build rapport quickly, and you know how you do that? By living in 8 different cities and by seeing a diversity of things. You know what? Maybe I'm a sports guy, but I've also been to the opera, and I like classical, and I've tried a little bit of everything. So your chance of connecting with somebody multiplies. It sounds crazy, but living in 8 cities means you have an 8 times higher chance of living in somewhere where somebody's been before.
That's how empathy happens.
It is.
Right?
But
Walk in other people's shoes.
We are not training that. We are making kids that want to just sit and go through college at the same place and just live the same life. That diversity of experience is one of the most beautiful things on earth.
Absolutely.
And I think it is something that we should be pushing people to do more.
Now, see, you're saying we aren't doing that. We like, I mean, I think some people are, but I think there are a lot, I do a lot of work with KSU. I do work with Georgia State. I'm about to speak with University of Rhode Island. I think there are a lot of people that know that everybody has got to get out of the little box and in front of the little screen and the bubble and expose people. And I spend a tremendous amount of time doing that, going on campus and saying, hey, by the way, if you're these kind of people, don't go do this for a living. And if you're these kind of people, go find this, because this is
fall
where
flat on your face many times. And
these are all the times we've failed. Yeah.
And we're not the number one thing we have to sell people.
Right. So does Zoom piss you off? So does Zoom piss you off? Because you have to do it sometimes, but it's very hard.
Yeah, I'm a face-to-face kind of person, and I hate that sounding like I'm an old school guy, because I'm really not old school. But I do believe there is something to observational learning, to organic interactions, to
shaking hands, tactile, looking somebody in the eyes. Those are hard things to fake. I think we're instructing my people the Zoom is how you get the meeting. Don't do an hour Zoom. Do a 15-minute Zoom that builds enough trust to get the meeting.
To get a meeting.
And I think that's it. So, guys, this has been awesome. I'm sure it went faster than you thought it would. We zoomed through this. I really appreciate the time. Moira Rivera of Modo and Jeff Maggs of Brunner. You've been listening to The Marketing Madman on Extra 106.3, and we'll catch you soon.
This morning in North Carolina, wheels are spinning. Determination is winning. A passion is now a thriving business, and it shows no signs of slowing down. How? The power of a conversation, like the one Clint Spiegel had with First Horizon Bank about starting a bike wheel manufacturing facility in Asheville. Now it's not just talk, it's rubber meets road. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Clint. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.